most of us have grown up with the idea that, well, the will that we have is fine. But when that will is activated, we're not going to be here. And then the family is left with trying to figure out what did he mean by this and that and the other thing. And sometimes it becomes very expensive and very complicated. And so you had asked me, could we find a really good attorney here in the area to come and speak to us about some of these end-of-life things? And so I was very fortunate to be directed toward Greg Christiansen, who, by the way, has done a remarkable job for me personally in the last couple, 3 weeks in getting a living trust for the family, and I'm very happy about that. But Greg, thank you for coming. He's going to be speaking for a little while, and then he'll open it up for questions and answers. And the way we're going to do that is, if you have a question, raise your hand, and Mark Dorr will carry a microphone to you and speak into it so we can all hear what your question is. Okay? Welcome, Greg.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Tell me how my sounds go. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be here.
I'm going to stick behind you.
I met Pastor Cano, rhymes with hope. Yeah, a couple months ago, came last time, and I thought the food was fine. Actual meatloaf's one of my favorites. The only thing I was a little saddened by when Pastor Bill gave the prayer, he forgot to mention the Beavers baseball team. I think we should all be in prayer for them.
Tomorrow.
It's a miracle they're there, really. Yeah, so I grew up in Illinois, spent a little time in Memphis and Kentucky, but I became a Christian at Northern Illinois University as a freshman when I went to a New Folk concert put on by, they're called Campus Crusade for Christ then, now they're known by Cru. A couple nights later, a couple guys came and went through the 4 laws with me. So when I graduated, I joined the staff with Crusade, and I was sent out to Oregon. I'd never been out to the Northwest, and they complied with my request. I served a couple of years here at Oregon State University, and then they call it Oregon College of Education, and I had a good time. Then I decided to go to law school. It's funny how we pick careers or professions. I had an aunt who had listened to me argue a little bit, and said, boy, I was about, 12. She said, you make a good attorney. That's really all it took. That was all the advice or counsel or guidance I got about picking a career. Yeah, so went to 1 year at Louisville. My parents had moved back there, University of Louisville. Really didn't like it. It wasn't a nice place. Old, dirty. They're doing their busing projects and things like that. So we moved out here and finished up at the U of O. Worked for 1 year for a federal judge, Michael Hogan, wonderful man, and then opened practice here in 1978. Yeah, pretty much a solo practitioner. I've shared offices from time to time. I will say this, that I was at Northwest Hills for about 15 years teaching the fellowship class, which was our class of older folks like you. And I really, really enjoyed them. And now here I am, one, but I still enjoy talking to you. So, one day an old rich man died. The family came to the attorney's office and said, how much did he leave? They said, oh, he left it all. Yeah.
He did.
And that's the truth of it. We do tend to accumulate wealth. The older we get our mortgages paid off, we get our children educated, they pay their own medical health insurance, they pay their own car insurance, and pretty soon, instead of needing life insurance, we actually have real wealth. And so a lot of us will die with real wealth. And so first thing I say is, what does the scripture say about this sort of thing, inheritance? Yeah, what does it say? Does God have an opinion? Well, if we start in the Old Testament, go back to Moses, Israel's inheritance, or the inheritance of the tribes, was land. That was the big feature back then, land. That was the inheritance of Israel. God had given them their inheritance, the land. The land needed to stay within the tribes, and it was theirs forever. And a couple of interesting points about that is some daughters, their dad died, they had no sons, and it was always the sons that inherited. The women were either going to be married or they would be taken care of in the family home by the father. And Moses said, well, here's it. And of course, the oldest son always got a double portion. The firstborn son of the father, not the mother, but the father got a double portion because he became much the caregiver, the head of the family. He took care of the unmarried women. He took care of the problems. And so he got a double portion to help him do that. But they came to Moses, said, our dad died, we had no sons, can't we inherit? And Moses went to God, and God said, those women are right. So the women inherited. Their only restriction was what? They could not marry outside the tribe. Every Sabbath year, slaves were set free. Every Sabbath year, debts were forgiven. And every 50 years, a year of Jubilee, not only the slaves and debts, but the land, if it was lost in a family, came back to that family. Whether it had been sold or put out under lease, it came back to that family. 2 generations after, up to 2 generations, after the people lost it, either through like a mortgage foreclosure or a sale or a long-term lease. But that was God's inheritance. Israel was always looking for the land. That was their inheritance. In the New Testament, things changed a bit. Our inheritance is the kingdom. We're co-heirs with Christ. And it pleases him to give us the kingdom. That's our inheritance. There's one part of the New Testament I'd not go over with you briefly. I think it's very revealing. In Luke 12, this is the only instance where someone came to Christ with a request that he did not answer. Some people had persuaded him, you know. Somebody had to say to him, well, even the dogs get the crumbs. He said, okay, I'll heal you. But this one guy never got help. This is Luke 12. Meanwhile, when a crowd of many thousands had gathered, so that they were trampling on one another, Jesus began to speak. And then I'll jump down to 13. This is still same crowd, same scene. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who anointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to him, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions." And then he told them the parable about the ground of a certain rich man, tearing down his barns. God said unto him, "You fool, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God." Don't worry about your life, what you'll eat. That's more than food. Consider the ravens, consider the flowers, and so on. So, with that as a background, I will say this, that estate planning is basically the passing of wealth from one generation to the next. It can be very complicated. This fellow was setting out for probate litigation, which is very expensive. Attorneys love it. You know, they usually end up with most of the estate. But it is perhaps, next to divorce, perhaps the most emotional, draining, cruel, family splitting sort of litigation there is. But it is based on greed. It's really based on greed. Now, when we say we're going to want to transfer wealth from one generation to the next, that's really for our generation. we're about ready to pass our wealth on to somebody. How many here have ever inherited anything? I would think you all would have. Was it fun? I mean, did you enjoy it? I found it a great blessing. How many did it through a probate court? That a will went through. How many did it through a trust? How many don't have any idea how they got it? So we took a case where someone, as they got older, sold their home, liquidated all their assets that they turned into stocks or bonds or cash or CDs, and then they died. What would be the easiest way for them to pass that money on? You probably all know that you can put a transfer on death designation on bank accounts and stock accounts. So if you say simply, upon my death, this account is transferred to my 3 children equally. Now, how simple is that? That's pretty simple. Even simpler than that is simply give it away. And yet, in all of my years of practice, I've not really found a client that was willing to do that best simple estate plan, simply give everything away. When they died, they wouldn't need anything. Like the rich man came to Jesus and said, what must I do to be saved? So just sell all your stuff, give it to the poor, and come follow me. Sounds pretty simple, but I don't know. I don't think he went for it because he was a rich man. So that's the simplest way. Now, there are other things that happen as we get older. Sometimes we become a little disabled, or we're not up with our finances too well. And you can always go into conservatorship, go to court, circuit court, to get a conservatorship, and the court will appoint somebody to take care of you, take care of your finances. But much simpler, simply to put a son or daughter on your bank account. Because the thing you need to do is basically get your bills paid. You don't need a lot of financial advice or things like that. You see somebody write the checks. And that's much simpler than going into court and getting a conservator and doing annual accounts that the court has to read and you have to pay for and file. So there's some very simple things. What is a trust? What is a trust? Trust. Where did trust start? Well, I think trust started back in merry old England when they had the feudal system, and they would have the lord of the manor somehow have foolish children. And they did not trust those children with their fields and castles. So they got this idea, I will turn it over to an agent, to a trustee. I will transfer my property to him. He'll have the legal title, but he will manage it for me. I will remain the equitable owner, but he'll have the legal owner. When I die, he will keep that position. And I've got a successor behind him and a successor behind him, so that that land, my feudal system, will always be in trust. And that's really how the trust came about. Unfortunately, in those days, England became populated and cities moved out into the feudal lands. And so the courts developed what they call the rule against perpetuities, which is a little complicated, but the idea is the trust has to end at some point. If I have a trust and I die, it has to come to a termination within 21 years after the life of someone in being, even if they're in vitriol. Yeah, so that's what that means. So a trust is very handy. If you were young and doing estate planning, children become adults in Oregon at 18. If you leave $1 million policy of life insurance, the children would receive that at age 18. So we have developed what's called a child care trust. So you appoint a trustee to manage that fund until the children maybe are 21 or 24 or 25. You don't want to keep it too long, but sometimes 18-year-olds don't really have the maturity to manage $1 million. So that's another use. We have trusts, educational trusts for grandchildren. We have trusts for cats and dogs. We have trusts set up at the OSU Foundation. So there are all kinds of trusts. What we talk about here is what's called an inter vivos, that is during life, an inter vivos, also called a lifetime trust, a living trust. Some corporations have developed a loving trust. So I just marketed it, you know, and its design is to do one thing, and that is to avoid probate. So you say, well, how does it avoid probate? Well, it avoids probate this way. Hewlett-Packard Corporation out there owns lots of land, lots of building, they have bank accounts, but they don't die. Hewlett-Packard doesn't die. There is no Hewlett-Packard. It's kind of a legal fiction. It's a corporation. It's a legal entity, but it's only run through human agents. So when I start a living trust, I appoint a trustee, and if I'm competent, I appoint myself to be the trustee. The person that creates the trust is called the trustor. So you have a trustor and a trustee. Sometimes the trustor is also called the settlor or the grantor, but that's the person who starts it. Then we put it into trust and we appoint a human agent. With a living trust, as an estate plan, I appoint myself. When I become incompetent or die, I have a successor trustee. And in my trust agreement, my contract between the trustor and the trustee, I say, when I die, I want you to distribute this property to my 3 children in equal shares. Okay, so far so good. So I would appoint my trustee, probably one of my kids is what I would do, and I have each of them be a successor trustee. I don't think co-trustees are very good. Anything with 2 heads is a monster, so try and stay away from that, one trustee at a time. But then their instructions on distribution would be the same that my will would say. My will is I want to leave 10% to my church, 90% to my 3 children, equal shares. If one of them is dead, distribute to their children by right of representation. Yeah, and so the trust becomes a will alternative. But you see, this is how it works. If I have a home, piece of real estate, and I die, the deed records say I'm the owner. So who does get it then? I'm dead. Who gets it then? Well, you say, well, we got a will here that says us kids get it. The title company, if you go to sell it, the title company will say, you know what, you need to take this will to probate because we don't know it was the last will. It was written 10 years, 15 years ago. We really don't know if Christiansen was in his right mind when he signed it, or if he was suffering from undue influence. We will not issue a policy, a title insurance, except with a judgment from the circuit court. So we take the will down to probate, put it in, do the notices, notify DHS if they have any claims against the estate, and go through that, which is quite time consuming, but it's a safe method. It's judicially supervised and it's safe. I would caution you, if you have rascals in your family, you probably don't want a living trust because it's pretty much self-administered. And rascals in the family, better to have the court supervise. So wills are good, trusts are maybe better, but the thing with the trust estate is you have to do it all yourself before you die. You have to do the trust, sign the deed. I mean, we actually transfer real estate deeds into the name of the trust. We say, like, from Bill Cadope to Bill Cadope's trust. Put the deed, he signs it, and go register it. It's done. If we waited, he passed on, we went to a probate court, the administrator there, not called a trustee, but a personal representative, would wait for the court to sign a judgment saying this is gets the property. The personal representative would draw up a personal representative's deed, and we sign it and take it down to the deed records. So they're actually transferred on paper in deed form. Yeah, real estate's the main thing. Most, like I say, most other financial accounts, you can simply transfer them on death, say who you want to get it. There are lots of assets, too, that have designated beneficiaries. If I have a policy of life insurance, I designate my 3 children to receive that after I die. They simply have to produce a death certificate for the insurance company, and they'll send checks out. It's a private contract. Individual retirement accounts contemplate designated beneficiaries, too. And there are some others, 401ks. Social Security, unfortunately, ends when you die. Kind of a rip, really. But it ends when you die. And financial accounts, just tell them who you want to receive the money when you die. So lots of wealth can be transferred that way, pretty simple. But if you own real estate, that is really where we want the living trust to come in to avoid a probate. Gets it to the people you want it to. One other advantage of the living trust is if you become incompetent, you can have your successor trustee take over for you. I guess I maybe already said that, but instead of having to get a conservatorship in court, you just have somebody step in, an agent, and take care of that. So other documents that you might think about would be a power of attorney. That is where you appoint a human agent while you're alive to handle your finances. Well, if I transferred everything into my trust, why would I need that? Well, because you may have forgotten something. I had a case where somebody found 10,000 shares of GM stock in a filing cabinet, and that had not been transferred into the trust, so they were incompetent, so we had the power of attorney come and transfer that into the trust. It's a bit of a safety net. We don't really need them to handle our finances because our successor trustee will take care of that for us. Other documents, a will. Even though I have a living trust, and even though I think I've transferred all my property into it, I die and maybe I find my 10,000 shares of GM stock then, or a bank account or something else that is going to have to go through probate. Hopefully it'll be a small estate proceeding and we can do it simply and simply put that property from the will into the trust. Sometimes we call it a pour-over trust because it takes this property that was left out of the trust and just pours it into the trust. So the trust document still is the tool by which we distribute the property. What other things do we need? Well, we might want to get health care, an advance directive for health care. Being the doctor lately or the hospital, you know, they really want you to do one. Probably not the best time to be clear thinking, but it appoints someone to make medical decisions for you when you're not competent. Maybe you're in a coma or just gone upstairs. You appoint somebody, maybe a spouse, maybe a child, and a backup for them. And then you also have a range of decisions that you can tell your representative how you want to be treated. If you want treatment by a physician, or if you just want to be left, have water, be made comfortable, or whatever. But it's good to have that. You'll be forced to do it probably sometime. Power of attorney is only good while you're alive. When you die, it's automatically revoked. A power of attorney is also revoked if you become incompetent, because the law has presumed that you would revoke it if you could, but you're no longer able to, so it revokes it for you. Except you probably would want a durable power of attorney, which provides that if you become incompetent, you want your power of attorney to continue. To exercise the power of attorney, the agent has to have the document. So as long as you have the document, you don't have anyone authorized to do that. So the living trust is a document that takes the place of a will. It transfers property, especially titled property. We don't really care about table and chairs, jewelry. We don't like to put vehicles into the name of the trust because they can get in accidents and create liabilities that we don't really want. Plus, the Department of Motor Vehicles is very friendly when it comes to transferring a vehicle that still has the name of a dead person on it. So you do what's called a little affidavit of heirship. Yeah, so why don't we open it up for questions? Mark, you rested up?
Yep.
So then just raise your hand if you have a question.
Is there a difference between you said a trust and a living trust? Is there a difference in those?
Trust is kind of generic. You can put a trust up for a cat or grandchildren now. The living trust, the reason they call it living, apart from marketing purposes, I guess, it's during your life, inter vivos. If I had a will and had a trust for my children under the age of 25, that would be called a child care trust. If I set a trust up for a disabled child, that would be called a special needs trust. So typically, the living trust, as you call it, is an inter vivos trust set up during your lifetime, and it's a will substitute, an alternative to a will. So it's pretty much restricted. It doesn't really have a tax savings involved, although you can do trusts that might do some tax savings too. That's one problem. The tax for the feds now is up like $14 million a person, but for residents of Oregon, the Oregon estate tax is $1 million. Although there is, I think, a bill in legislature, it's out of legislature, should be voted on shortly, that I think will raise it up to about the feds level. Because $1 million is just not what it used to be. You know, houses going here in Corvallis for $400,000, $500,000, $500,000, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. I mean, it's like, yeah. But under Oregon law, each person, if you're a married couple, the husband can leave $1 million and the wife can leave $1 million. You have to use certain methods to do that. It's pretty simple. That good? Next.
Right here.
I can almost hear you.
I think I can be heard. You said the agent has to have a copy. Who is the agent?
Whoa.
Is it the attorney?
No. Go ahead. Ask your question
Okay.
so everyone can hear. Yeah.
Okay, you said an agent had to have a copy.
Had to have the original.
Okay, well then who's the agent?
The person you appoint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can
A
it be?
power of attorney is an agency relationship.
And it
Like
could
the
be
president of Hewlett Packard is an agent for the corporation.
Okay, so it can be a daughter,
Could be a daughter, that'd be good.
and it would be good even after I'm gone. She could execute what I say.
No. Power of attorney is revoked upon death.
So then who takes over?
Then the person that's running your trust or the personal representative of your estate.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you have a power of attorney, you need either to keep your house out of a probate, you need either a will or a trust.
Well, a will not keep your house out of probate. That's the whole point of what we've been saying.
Yeah,
Okay, you'll have to go through probate in order for a title company.
and if I don't have a will but just a power of attorney, it's gonna have to go through probate.
Yeah. If you don't have a will, then what we call the intestacy laws will distribute your property for you. Those are based upon degree of kinship.
Okay.
If you have a wife and 3 children, then your wife would get 100%. If you have a wife and 3 children come somewhere else, then the wife gets 50% and the children get 50%. And if they're all dead, then your mom and dad would inherit. If your mom and dad are dead, then your brothers and sisters would inherit. If they're dead, then it would be their children.
So if I don't have anything, it's gonna go through all that kind of,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not bad. I mean, it's not really bad. You'll be dead, so you won't.
Yeah,
You will know.
But, you know, I would like that for my children.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Judy.
So to get this clear, if you have a home, will it, regardless of what you write up, always go into probate?
Say that again. If you have a home and you die,
Yeah,
and you have a will or a trust or nothing.
right. Oh, we have an old will.
You have what?
An old will.
Yeah, okay.
But what is the best thing to do? I think the other question, what is the best thing to do with your home?
I think the older we get, we don't have to worry about transferring deeds. You know, sometimes we buy and sell houses and move here and move there. It's a little tedious. It takes a lot of paperwork to keep up with that. But if I'm settled down, say I have a wife and me, we own the home and we're getting older, that's a really good time to do a living trust. If one spouse dies, the other spouse automatically owns the property. Or they might even put it this way, that they've always owned the property and now the other person doesn't own any of it. They have an undivided interest in the whole property. But if I'm a single person, I own a home, perfect time to do a living trust. I could sign the deed over to the trust, and then when I die, the trustee can come in and sell the property or whatever he or she wants to do with it.
I've received advice in the past with a simple estate that you pay now and establish a trust, which is quite expensive, or you pay later and just have a will. What's your advice on that?
Say that again. I didn't quite hear all.
If you have a simple estate, I've been told in the past that. Pardon?
What is a simple estate?
Oh, just a house and a IRA or something.
Okay, go ahead.
You can establish a trust now, which is quite expensive, or I can pay now, or I can have a will and they'll pay later when it goes through probate.
Yeah. I mean, that's dealer's choice.
What's your advice?
That's up to you. I would say on the whole, probably doing a living trust, that'd be a trust agreement, pour over wills, powers of attorney, advance directives, would probably cost about half of what a probate would cost. But the thing is, you're paying that now, whereas a probate, your dad and the heirs would be paying it and doing all the work. So it's like, people, do you care about your heirs? You want to go easy on them? Or should they earn their inheritance? Either way, I mean, either way works. It's just a matter of money.
I understand that Oregon has a death tax, and one of the worst states that there is to die in. And I understand even a trust does not escape you from the Oregon death tax, because you're allowed to control $1 million. Everything above that, the state takes 40%.
10%.
Is it only 10%?
10%. It starts out at 80, maybe ends up around 12%. Yeah, but you're right. You can call that a death tax. The government likes to call it a state tax. But you might notice as you get older, wherever there's a transfer of wealth, there's always people with their hands out. There's attorneys, real estate brokers, the IRS, Oregon Department of Revenue. Yeah. So you can each give them, in the state of Oregon, it is one of the highest tax states. We do have a bill going through the legislature, hopefully it'll succeed. It will raise it up to 10 million a person. $14 million is when the IRS, when the federal.
But Oregon, you're only allowed to have all your assets, if they add up over $1 million, then they have the state death tax.
Yep. Oh, did you say gift tax?
And it's 10%.
No, there is no gift tax in Oregon, which is pretty surprising. I think under the right conditions, if you knew you're going to die in 3 months, you could just give your whole estate away, and that would be it. No gift tax in Oregon. There again, I really don't have clients that are really enthusiastic about that.
Now myself, okay, we have some rental property, and the attorney told me that the rental property in my house everything goes into it. I do have a trust, and I have the rumors that Oregon only lets you keep, when you die, you only get to divide up anything you own, your car, your house and stuff, that all of a sudden, that the trust does not protect you on those Oregon taxes, but you're allowed to.
A trust does not protect you on Oregon taxes.
Right.
Or federal taxes. Our only hope is that they raise that limit up from $1 million on up. Because if you've got a house with 3 rentals, you're probably gonna get pinched.
Yeah, how can I go into the state taking everything when I die, and because I got 4 kids out there, all grown up, but they've worked hard all these years,
Yeah.
you know, to create a business. Anyway, so they're all on, you know, have all 4 of my kids, yeah, they worked hard to help.
Well, the state's gonna take some on the transfer of the wealth. The state of Oregon, anything over $1 million. Are you married?
My wife died 8 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, so Oregon's gonna get a little bit of money from him, I think.
And my youngest son, he's the head of my trust. And the rest of my kids on down the line
Yeah.
take over with something. Well, my youngest son, if something happens to him, then the next one in line is my youngest daughter. She's a federal U.S. attorney. All my kids worked hard.
Yeah. Very good. Next question.
I have another question.
He'll get to you.
Yeah.
I do not have real estate because I own a mobile home,
Yeah.
but I've been having trouble. I put my son on everything, but I'm having trouble getting them to put my son's name on my mobile home. Any ideas? Do I have to go to a title company to get it done?
Well, the mobile home transfer is really quite confusing. I dread doing one myself. But you can get online, I don't know if it's Form 87 or something. And mobile homes used to be administered through DMV, now they're done through the building department of each county. Yeah, so you can get the form through the building department, and it should be very easy if you can fill out the form without going crazy to put your son on it. You have just one child?
No, I have three, but my son is on everything else.
Okay.
I put him
Well,
on
he
everything.
might make out real well.
This is not a personal problem, but if I had a lot of money or property, couldn't I just give it? I can give it to anyone. Now,
You certainly can. You know, the federal, it's up to 14 million, but it combines, it keeps track of the gifts you make and combines that with the estate you leave. So it's a cumulative sort of thing. But the state of Oregon has no gift tax, so yeah, I think I've said that. You want to give everything? Sure. Okay. You'll be the first.
My question is pretty much like that lady there. I have a mobile home. I own it.
Mhm.
My husband is on the title of the house, and I would like my daughter to be there. Is there a way to do that, and I won't be penalized because either adding or taking off my husband and adding my daughter?
Yeah, that would be reasonable.
So, do I go to a title company?
Well, I think you should try first. Is your daughter live around here?
Yes.
Yeah, she can help you. In fact, I'd make her do it really. Is you go to the building department of Benton County, and they will have a form for you to fill out. You probably need your husband's death certificate, and you'll need to show that the taxes are current, and then you can just add her to the title.
Does that take my husband off?
Yeah.
too? Yeah.
Through the death certificate.
Yes, okay. Was that That's all, thank you. So you're saying if I go to the building department, then I can take my mobile home and make sure my daughter's legally on the title of the...
Yeah, you'll have to process the form. And are you on the title alone now?
I don't know if it's in my name or my husband's name.
Well, you have to check that out.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's not really, what they give you really isn't a certificate of title like we have for cars. It's more like a page-long document. Yeah.
So the living trust ain't gonna protect me with the manufactured home then, right?
Well, you can put the manufactured home into the trust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, okay.
yeah. And you can have your daughter be the successor trustee.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, can I just write that in there, or do I have to have it approved by somebody to write the manufactured home on there?
Well, have your daughter do it. I don't think you have to have it done by any official form filler out. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, one more.
Behind you.
How does it work if you've inherited money from a parent, there are 3 siblings and 4 siblings, and do each of us then pay our own tax, or is it part of the...
No, it's generally paid as part of the estate.
Okay.
The estate will file income tax returns if you need to in this, and the trust or the probate estate will file the estate tax return.
Okay, so will it be on both the federal and the state tax? Because we live in different states.
Federal's like 14 million, so
Okay, so-
I don't doubt it. Some states have no estate tax. Oregon has $1 million limit.
Okay.
So then anything over $1 million, you have to file a return.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
we weren't on anything.
We're all gonna worry about that. Yeah.
Sorry, Grant, you're not old enough. This is a senior group. I also want to ask a question.
How can I go? All right, if, let's say you have a trust and/or you have a piece of property that has a parent and a child on it, and somebody comes along and they fall on your steps and they sue the property, what happens in that case?
Who owns the property?
Let's say it's in a trust, one example, and not in a trust, the other example. It's just parent and child in the...
Well, I mean, you have your slip and fall case, that's not really estate planning, but if you're smart, you have liability insurance to take care of that. Whether it's in the trust, or it's in your own name, or it's in a probate estate.
So if it was the parent's house and somebody sued for whatever reason, and the child was on the deed, would they be somewhat liable, or could they also be sued?
If they're an owner, you're saying they're a part owner?
Like these people are talking about where you add the sibling to the deed. So you have a parent and a child, and basically...
Well, I think what he was saying is that he was a trustee, and then his oldest or youngest son would be a successor trustee, then his daughter would be that. Usually an agent doesn't have liability, no. If they're owner and they had, that was their job to keep the property safe and they were negligent in that, yeah, then they probably. But there again, you really want to have some liability insurance. Okay. Oh, uh-oh.
Wow.
No more.
Okay, I'm out of my comfort zone here. This is a text from my wife. But I just wanted to know, first of all, I want to make sure I understand. So between a will and a trust is a better way to go.
Cheaper way to go, in the long run.
In the long run, cheaper way to go, okay. So can we write our own, we set up our own trust?
Without attorney counsel?
I guess that's what.
I would say good luck. I mean, it's a little complicated.
It can be done, but it's not an easy walk.
No.
Okay.
How many deeds have you drawn up?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably none.
But probably not, and you do need a deed. So, yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Okay.
That's my question, thank you.
Right.
How much should a person expect to pay for a trust or a will?
I would say to do a full estate plan with a will would probably run you $800 to $2,000. To do a trust, because you have more documents and some recording fees, I would say between $2,000 and $5,000. Really depends what you're ready to go to. It's all pretty much forms, so there's no real rocket science on anything. So, yeah.
Can I write my own will and have it witnessed and be effective?
You could, but I couldn't say it'd be effective.
Why? If it's witnessed.
How many witnesses do you need for a will?
I would say just one.
Nope.
Nope. How many?
In Oregon, 2, in California, 3.
I don't know.
We always do affidavits for our witnesses. So they swear to oath they were there and that you're competent, because if you die and we can't find the witnesses and somebody objects to the will or contests it, it's just a safety thing.
Does it have to be notarized? Or can
The
I
will
just?
does not need to be notarized, it needs to be witnessed by two
That's
people.
two people.
The witnesses, though, we always have them sign affidavits, which are notarized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you've been very good children. Oh.
There's one over there.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
You told us the cost of setting up a trust, what would the cost of going through probate be?
The probate, well, I can tell you this, there's about, I guess it's reduced on about $300 $300 publication. You have to put it in the newspaper. It's about $700 filing fee, and then the attorney has to draw up a petition, send out notices, draw up the notice, and yeah. I would say the last one I did was like 9,000. It was an out-of-state, personal rep, so we had a lot more communication. And they sold a house in the estate for like 470,000, so it's a pretty small percentage of the transaction, but it seems like a lot. Okay, last one.
Say that I used to market
I can't hear it.
If you had Legal Shield, they would fill out the form, and they give you a form to fill out, and they would help you do your will and everything with no other cost. Legal Shield is fill out.
I've never seen anything
So,
by.
something to check into if you don't have money for an attorney. It's better than probate, because my husband didn't put my name on the house.
Well, if you do a will with him, you're still gonna have to do probate.
I know, but he never got around to putting my name on the house, and he died 2 days before the appraiser came to the house, because he was gonna put my name on it, and he didn't get the paper notarized.
Who was this, your husband?
Yeah.
Oh.
And he had 3 kids, and I had 2 kids.
Oh, boy.
And so, but I had to use the house to pay off all of his debts. The kids got half of the house was value afterwards. But I lucked out on one because he had an ex-wife that still had a credit card with her name on it, so I didn't have to pay that one. They went after her.
That's good.
This is.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it back to the pastor.
Thank you. Thank you.